Hello guys, we are back with another episode here on European Confessions. So there is this message that I'm going to share with you that I received from one of our listeners. The message reads like this: Good day, European Confessions. I have come to share with you my own story, which is making my life so miserable, and I don't know where to go. I have been to a spiritualist, and I also tried everywhere to seek for solutions to my problems that I am facing, but I just can't find any help. So what happened is that I once worked in a shop for a certain couple. This couple was so rich, unbelievably rich. They did spend most of their time out of Africa. They rarely stayed at their house. But what amazed me is that their shop that I was working in, it was quite a small shop, and we were only selling pure water and snacks. It was me and this other boy that I was working with at that time. So we used to stay at this couple's house because even though they were super rich, sometimes they'll give us very poor salary. Sometimes they'll just throw money at you. They will give us a salary that truly made no sense. But what amazed me is that even though they gave us large sums of money, but there was nothing valuable that you could buy with that money. Please, admin, ask for me, is it even possible that you only have two people working for you, and those two people that are working for you, they are selling pure water? Then you buy 3 trucks, and when people ask you where you got that money, you claim that that is the profit that you got from the pure water. Even my mother once cautioned me about my boss, because each and every time just before the payday, she would call me. Then she would tell me that she always had a dream days before my payday, and in that dream my boss will try to sleep with her, but each and every time she would refuse. Then one night she told me that she had the same dream, but my boss then offered her large sums of money, and then she accepted that money and they slept together. Admin, my mother then died of cervical cancer. Before my mother died, she told me that she saw a very small human being. It was walking into that hospital room where she was admitted, but this little human being was walking side by side with my boss. Then my boss and that little human being started to force my mother, trying to sleep with her, but she refused. After they had seen that my mother was refusing, then my boss's wife also entered that room, but all of this was happening in my mother's dream. Then my boss's wife held her legs wide open. Then my boss had intercourse with my mother. After that, the little human being entered her womb. When my mother told me this story, she said that the pain that she felt when that little human being was entering her womb, that was the most painful thing that had ever happened to her. When she compared with the pain that she felt when she gave birth to me, she said that giving birth was not painful than what had happened to her the previous night. What pains me about my mother's death is that the doctors then refused us when we asked that we should take our mom back home. The reason why I had asked the doctors that they should discharge my mom, because there was a day when I had gone to visit my mom at the hospital. Then I met this certain pastor. This pastor just took me aside and he told me that me and my team, we have been going around in this hospital and praying for each and every patient that is admitted in this hospital. But when we entered in the ward where your mom is admitted, clearly I could feel that there is a demonic presence that was in that ward. Please do all that you can, because that is what the Spirit told me, that you have to do all that you can so that your mom can be discharged. Even if it is today, do not live here at this hospital. But what hurts me the most is that when I went to the doctors refused. And also in my heart, I did not believe the prophecy that that pastor gave me. I just thought that it was one of those pastors who was trying to start their own church. Just before I had left him talking with other patients, he said to me, "Can I prophesy to you?" And I said yes, but I didn't care about the prophecy that he wanted to give me, because in my mind I just say that he just wants to invite me over to his church. Then he said that there are a lot of rituals. I prophesy that there are a lot of rituals that are being done on your mother each and every night, and your uncle is involved, and there is another woman and another man that I see, but I can't clearly see their faces. The only person that he could see in the spirit was my uncle. But when he mentioned my uncle, I was so angry at him. I actually told him that you are just an attention seeker, pastor. Please let me be, because with the way that my uncle loved my mother, I'll never imagine that my uncle will ever do a ritual on my mother, because at that time when my mother was sick, my uncle never paid a visit to my mother. The only explanation that he gave us as a family is that he loved my mother too much. He didn't want to see my mother suffering with all the pain that comes with having cancer. My uncle only came to the hospital the day that my mother died. After my mother had died, that is when we learned that my boss had given my uncle loads and loads of money. When I confronted my uncle about the money that he had been given by my boss, he told me that he had gone there to get a loan so that we can use the money to arrange my mother's funeral. I even tried to tell my uncle that what he did was very wrong. If there was someone who was supposed to go to my boss and ask for money for the funeral to be arranged, it was supposed to be me, not my uncle. I was the one who was working for this man, but my uncle told me that my tears were not going to bury my mother. But at that time, I just thought that my uncle was just greedy. He just needed the money, and this was not about my mother. Little did I know that there was something that was tempting my uncle to ask my boss for money. On my mother's burial, there was something shocking that happened, because there was someone who fell inside her grave, and that person broke their leg. An ambulance had to be called. The elders then said that we had to stop the burial because of this shocking incident, but my uncle totally refused. Then my uncle became so violent, such that the elders in our family say that we should just proceed with the burial of my mother for the sake of peace in our family. Later, I then discovered that my uncle was so violent because he had been promised that he will be given more money by my boss. My brother, if I tell you that so many years has gone by since my mother's death, but now what troubles me is that my uncle is so close to my former boss, and my uncle overnight, he just went rich just like that. This boss's children are in Dubai. Recently, they just gifted my uncle with a brand new Lexus. My uncle's last born, he was a very healthy 10-year-old boy when my mother passed away. But if I tell you today that he is now in a wheelchair and he cannot speak anymore. As for me, I left my job when I saw how my mother had died, but I have been having terrifying nightmares since the day when I left my job. Sometimes I sleep sitting in a chair with a blanket wrapped around myself, because if I lie down, the nightmares will start. Sometimes I can even go for many days without sleeping. I drink a lot of coffee just to keep me awake, because it is so scary when it's night time. And when the nightmare starts, it is so terrifying. But this constant thing of me drinking a lot of coffee, it is affecting me. But when the nightmare starts, I hear my uncle, he will be shouting at my mother, telling my mother to enter into my room and torment me. But the more that my mother refuses, my uncle will then enter the room himself and he will torment me. Just before sunrise, I always see him leaving my room, and there is nothing that I can do about it. My uncle's relatives are dying a lot. Like in the COVID days, it was so worse. People were dying without any explanation. The other boy that I used to work with, he was arrested. He just started running mad after he had confessed that our boss had been forcing him to sleep with homeless women and mentally ill women. After he had just finished giving his confession at a certain church, I was told that he started to scream and he ran out of the church, removing all of his clothes. And he was then caught sleeping with a mentally ill woman and was then arrested. I myself, I once went to a pastor, but he said I should come back later for deliverance. This amazed me, but as someone that needed deliverance, I went back to his house because he said that the deliverance can only be done at his house. But as I was walking towards his house, I saw that my boss's car and my boss's personal assistant, he was there speaking with the pastor, and they were laughing as if they knew each other so well. When I saw that this pastor was being given a big bag, I just turned around and I ran away. Until today, I really feel scared to confess my story to anyone, my brother. Please hide my identity. I'll be there in the comment section. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I got from Anonymous. She asked me that I should hide the country from where she is writing this message from. Please let us try to talk with her in the comment section. I'll be back with more episodes.